This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Today, rain with a high near 47. Rain continues tonight, low around 38. Breezy with rain on Wednesday and a high near 43. Construction on a big project to provide better child care and housing options in downtown Binghamton could get underway next fall. The YWCA of Binghamton is finalizing its plans for the initiative that's been in the works for years. Agency Executive Director Carol Coppins said 5 properties on Carroll Street and Lyle Avenue have been acquired for what is expected to be a $34 million project. 68 affordable housing units are to be built as part of an intergenerational campus planned for Lyle Avenue. One existing building is to be demolished to clear the way for the project. The former Broome County Urban League building at 45 Carroll Street will be renovated for a new child care center. That center will be able to accommodate 96 people. Half of the housing units in the new complex will be dedicated to domestic violence survivors. The units will provide long-term housing and won't serve as a shelter facility. Groundbreaking for the YWCA project could occur next fall. Construction work for the complex is expected to take 2 years to complete. A property on Court Street in downtown Binghamton will soon be renovated by an architectural business that recently moved into the building. The founding partners of L2 Studio Architecture are planning a major makeover of the 3-story structure at 134 Court Street. The firm acquired the property for $165,000 last June. The building, which was constructed in 1866, had previously been owned by the Landmark Church. The first phase of the planned renovation project calls for repointing the brick exterior. That work is expected to be done this summer. The offices of the architectural firm have occupied the first floor of the building for the past several months. The second and third floors of the building are to be transformed into a pair of 3-bedroom apartments. Those floors, which may not have been occupied for decades, were gutted by previous owners. The project is eligible for state and federal tax credits because of the historic nature of the building. Details of the planned renovations will be outlined for members of the city's Commission on Architecture and Urban Design this afternoon. Donald Trump has posted a $175 million bond in his New York civil fraud case, halting collection of the more than $454 million he owes and preventing the state from seizing its assets to satisfy the debt while he appeals. That's according to a court filing made public on Monday. A New York appellate court had given the former president 10 days to put up the money after a panel of judges agreed last month to slash the amount needed to stop the clock on enforcement. One of Trump's lawyers says, quote, he looks forward to vindicating his rights on appeal and overturning this unjust verdict. Voters in 4 states will weigh in on their party's presidential nominees, a largely symbolic vote now that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have locked up the Democratic and Republican nominations. Biden and Trump are both expected today to easily win primaries in Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin, and add to their delegate hauls for their party conventions this summer. The decisions will nevertheless offer clues about enthusiasm among base voters for the upcoming 2020 rematch that has left a majority of Americans underwhelmed. In September, Hyundai and Kia issued a recall of 3.4 million of its vehicles in the United States with an anonymous warning. The vehicles should be parked outdoors and away from buildings because they risked catching fire, whether the engines were on or off. 6 months later, most of those autos remain on the road, unrepaired, putting their owners, their families, and potentially other people in danger of fires that could spread to garages, houses, and other vehicles. Hyundai and Kia have acknowledged that there's little hope of repairing most of the affected vehicles until June or later, roughly 9 months after they announced the recalls. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now, Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, primary election day. Have you voted? WNBF saluting New York voters today. 607-772-1290. Call in. Tell us about your voting experience. What are your thoughts? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? What are your expectations? Primary Day 2024 in New York. Presidential primary in New York State. The polls have now been open for 3 hours and 10 minutes. And because of our desire not to skew either the Republican or the Democratic presidential primary contest in New York, we will not be discussing the results of WNBF's exclusive exit polling. We have the numbers, but we shall not divulge any of the exit poll information until the polls are officially closed at 9 p.m. Once again, it's primary election day. And I know the weather could affect the turnout today. It's less than optimal. And because it's a little drizzly and bleak, and of course with people fixated on something scheduled for next Monday, a lot of people probably have forgotten that they need to get out there and vote. So if you are a registered Republican or Democrat, especially Republicans, now is the time. Now is the time to go to your polling place. So I'm looking at the poll sites here in Broome County. If you don't know where to go, look it up online. So, for example, there's a polling site on Clinton Street. There's one on Court Street. There's one on Robinson Street. I just drove by. I waved. I don't believe... didn't see anybody there. The polling site on the east side was shockingly quiet. On the west side, Oak Street at the church. Another church polling place on Riverside Drive. Vestal Avenue on the south side, also Baldwin Street at a church on the south side. And polling places in the towns of Barker, Binghamton, Shenango, Colesville, Concord. Well, you understand. Look it up. Look it up. If you want to know your polling place, you can call the Board of Elections. They're there to serve you year-round. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. Happy Primary Day. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
I'm from Binghamton, New York, and my name is John.
All right. remember, you're not obligated to tell me how you voted, but what were the conditions at your polling place, I assume? Let's see, is your polling place on Oak Street today or on Riverside Drive?
No, it's on Oak Street.
Okay, at the church?
Yeah.
All right. So was it exceptionally crowded?
You want me to get up early in the morning?
You see, okay, this is a case in point. There probably is nobody in Broome County who is more engaged and active in public affairs and concerned about the outcome of primaries as well as general elections than John from Binghamton. And that answer is exactly. It tells the level of enthusiasm that we face this year with our primaries.
Yeah, that Chris Christie, he really would motivate me to get out of bed. But I'd like to talk about this meeting regarding Bun Hill Road.
Oh, yeah, that ought to be a barn burner. I mean, not literally, because we don't want that. Figuratively, though, it could be hot.
I've been going to meetings for 50 years, but I don't understand the purpose of this meeting. The issue as it was has been litigated, and so you need more public comment. I mean, you're going to have dozens and dozens of people, and they're not going to break one bit of new ground. Everybody's mind is made up. I mean, I will bet you $100 that nobody is going to come to that podium and dazzle anybody and say, "Oh, wow, I never thought of that."
Oh, wouldn't that be funny? New information emerged at the Town of Vestal special board meeting and information session Wednesday night. A shocking revelation that caused the 290 people at the Vestal High School auditorium to gasp. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the lead story on the Wednesday night news.
So this is a group therapy session, and these people are nice people, but I'm questioning why you would have it. I mean, the case has been litigated. Now, if you want to try to put in other roadblocks, and you have, this is assuming that the newly elected, the three that were newly elected, are against this Bun Hill Road project. There's 3 votes, and you've got the other 2. I would think you would get it on, but you're going down a rabbit hole. I mean, the litigation thus far has been privately funded. If Vestal takes a new tact to try to stop this project, then that puts them in the litigation loop. And, just how much money are they prepared to spend?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, yeah, when they put out the notice, first, I got the notice in our email on April Fool's Day. So I did a double take because I thought, oh, this is one of those local government April Fool's pranks that nobody ever does anymore. And then I thought, well, no, it's coming legitimately from the town supervisor's office. So it's for real. And so, I took it at face value after at least for the first 30 seconds, considering that, maybe somebody gave the green light for an April Fool's Day fake notice, but it certainly appears legit. So I know they're going to have their meeting tomorrow night.
And they're going to take all this so-called input. But again, I just don't understand look, my sympathies are with the people on Bun Hill Road that are against the project. That's not the problem. The problem is, can you reconfigure regulations and tailor make them to keep a project out when it's already gone up on some levels of litigation. And I mean, I think that the whole thing is questionable. But again,
well, I mean, to be fair, any town can hold a public information meeting about anything. I mean, maybe the content of the meeting will be just what you said. Basically, all right, this has been one form of development on this property has been discussed for more than a decade, and it's clear that many, many people who live fairly close to Bun Hill Road and Jensen Road don't support it, and they spent who knows how much money ultimately over the years, obviously probably tens of thousands of dollars, to unsuccessfully fight it in the courts. And maybe that is what they'll announce at the beginning, and then, as you suggest, maybe it'll be something it would serve as a sort of therapeutic type exercise so people can collectively exhale after an unsuccessful battle against the development.
Well, this group has binders of letters. I mean, hundreds. I don't know. Maybe there's 1,000.
They may. You're right. The opponents, and we've spoken with one of the key leaders of the people opposed to development of the Bun Hill Road property by some developers, out-of-state developers who won't talk. I mean, again, I personally don't have a position on the project. I always am concerned about out-of-state developers who propose to do anything in Broome or Tioga counties and won't talk on the radio.
Well, at a board meeting, here was the interesting tack. Here's the interesting I think it was 2 board meetings ago. They brought Binghamton University into it, and they said, well, Binghamton University is going to develop that anyway. That was the thing. So one board member, and people will know the one I'm talking about, gets up and says that he had a meeting with Harvey Stenger. And the legislator from Vestal gets really in a huff for her, and she says, "Well, we better get him here now because I was at meetings with him, and he said the university has no intention of developing that." So it's going to be interesting if the university sends a representative or.
Well, what if actually there's the wild card? What if the meeting commences at 6:00, and out from behind the curtain comes BU President Harvey Stenger with an official announcement?
Well,
see, we don't know. We don't know what might be, or even better, President Harvey Stenger from the university introduces Governor Kathy Hochul. Again, I know you're saying, Bob, are you delusional? And to that, I will say, yeah, apparently, if I'm talking like that. But again, hey, it's a public meeting, and theoretically, anything could happen. It won't, but could. Yeah,
but I mean, when you have a board member get up there and says he had a meeting or was at a meeting, and then the other a county legislator says I was at that meeting, I mean, when you got people that are in imaginary meetings or meetings that they can't substantiate or whatever, I mean, if you go to a meeting, you go with a legal pad, So
yeah, well. I mean,
anyway,
those are the types of meetings that ought to be live streamed, but they can't even live stream their own regular board meetings. So how could they hold or live stream a special meeting with developers or the university president? They can't even. John, if the people of the village of Owego are able to do a live stream, why can't Vestal? Okay, that's a rhetorical question. Thank you for your call. We'll see what happens as Vestal turns. It's 9:22 News Radio WNBF.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. We're still saving the Southern Tier money at Galt Toyota.
It's 9:26 at News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. It's time for a preview of tomorrow's segment from Karen Sweet O'Neill. This preview sponsored by KSO Insurance Solutions. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good. Did you hear about the eclipse?
I think I heard a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
No, they're having big meetings. Governor Hochul and many other governors along the projected path of what is supposed to be an eclipse. I'm skeptical. I know they've hyped it now for a long time. I have my doubts. But because of the weather concerns next week, there is discussion at the highest levels of the state and federal governments of rescheduling the eclipse. So just saying, it's never been done before, and I know it's going to generate a lot of controversy, especially in an election year. I don't know. This is one of those hot potatoes that I don't think either presidential candidate wants to get involved in. But can you imagine what would happen if they rescheduled the eclipse that so many people have been preparing for?
It would be quite surprising on many levels.
Well, it'd be very disturbing. First of all, who knew they could do it? And it just proves that, what the conspiracy theorists have been saying all along is they have the ability to control a lot of things that up to this point they have never acknowledged. And I think a lot of this has to do with AI.
Well, I'll tell you what, AI is pretty darn interesting, isn't it?
That's what Elon Musk told me, off the record. But he wouldn't mind me sharing that with you. He told me a couple other things he has in mind about AI as well. But I'm not at liberty to divulge them. He probably will announce them on Twitter soon.
I'll tell you what, it is just amazing what technology has brought us.
That's what I've said all along. In fact, we're going to be talking about some important solar technology in just a few moments, so stay tuned for that. But as far as your segment tomorrow, what advice are you planning to share with our listeners?
Well, we're going to focus on an article actually that was in the paper this morning. This isn't what I was going to talk about, but I said, you know what? It's so darn important, and it was an example of a couple that had worked all their lives, Bob, and saved for retirement, and then all of a sudden medical mishaps and medical situations happened to one of the partners, one of the spouses, and how it just depleted their resources and how they aren't going to be able to leave anything for their children, but even more importantly, might not be able to, have enough to sustain themselves without the wife going back to work. And, we hear it all the time, but it's really important that we revisit it, because if you come into an accident or an illness and you don't have the proper coverage that can help you maybe not pay for the whole cost, but pay for a good portion of those co-pays and all these other things that happen when you come into a long-term care situation, then you really don't have any other choice, but you have to reach into your own budget and start to pay for it. And we're going to talk about the prices. We're going to talk about what if you are in that spot where you're in between, let's say, 60 and 65, so you're not eligible for Medicare yet, but you're retired or you get laid off. What are your choices going to be as far as health insurance goes? Do you need to pay $900 a month for your health insurance coverage? And what are your other options? So, geez, you better give me a whole morning for this discussion.
That's okay. I'll let you take up to 3 hours. You have to wrap up though by noon tomorrow, because then Dan Bongino comes in and he has a temper.
Oh, most definitely.
Well, and he's
I would-
also
yeah.
former Secret Service, so he knows people. So I always have to respect Mr. Bongino. So
Yes,
I always
you're
leave
first
at
in
noon, whether I'm done or not.
Very smart. We are at 1708 Vestal Parkway East, up above Plato's Closet and Style Encore. You can reach us several ways for an appointment. You can simply give us a call at 607-772-4898. Can also Google us at KSO Insurance, and all our contact information comes up, including our website, and make an appointment that way if you choose. And we also are in the phone book if you missed the phone number, and we have a big display ad under insurance in the Yellow Pages.
Karen Sweet O'Neill, we will talk tomorrow morning at about 9:20.
Very good. Have a good day, Bob.
Thank you. Take care. It's 9:32. Coming up next, we talk about solar technology. New information that you will want to know. That's next. This is WNBF Live.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
It's 9:34 on WNBF. I'm Bob Joseph. We're joined in the studio now by Chris Jenkins, who is the owner of My Solar Grid. My Solar Grid. Chris Jenkins, thank you very much for joining us on this Tuesday morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
So tell us a little bit about the solar energy company in Endicott called My Solar Grid. How did you buy it, and why did you purchase the company?
I always wanted a manufacturing company of all things, and where I grew up as a kid, somebody could go to high school, get a job, support a family of four, and maybe not live like Elon Musk, but live a good life.
Yeah, comfortable.
A comfortable life. And so I was always looking for companies like that where I could take a company, hire hardworking people, pay them a living salary, and do something that's worthwhile.
So when did you acquire the company? And I guess more importantly, before you acquired this local company in Endicott, what did you do?
I own another company, and we put in power plants, water processing technology, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought a solar company down here, formerly ETM, in December of 2022.
All right. So one thing that I know from talking with friends and some relatives, sometimes people have certain ideas about solar energy. And I know from those conversations that sometimes their conceptions, their ideas about solar energy are on the money, but I also know from things I've read that sometimes they're not exactly right. In fact, sometimes they have some serious misconceptions about the way solar energy works.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's just kind of exactly that. We have misconceptions about a lot of things we think we know about, but the biggest misconception I think in this area is probably that we don't have enough sun. That they see days like today.
I was going to say, I'm driving
Exactly.
into work today and thinking, oh, great, we're going to be doing a segment about My Solar Grid, and it's looking bleak, not just for today, but probably for at least the next 3 or 4 days, relatively cloudy and overcast. And so people will be like, well, how ironic you're talking about solar energy on days that are so overcast.
Yeah, and I was just talking with others that these are days that we don't sell a lot of solar, but that doesn't mean people aren't producing solar. You don't need, 100% no clouds in the sky. Like a day like today, you're not going to produce as much. You're not going to produce a lot of solar, but you're still producing. And the way it works in New York is that, and Pennsylvania, is that you're collecting credits during the year. So like in June, July, August, when you're making a lot of sun or making a lot of solar from the sun, you're banking that extra energy and then using those credits this time of year when you're not making as much.
Well, so that helps to explain how over the course of 12 months things actually work out. So you're coming out ahead. In typical cases, how long might it take for a solar system to really pay for itself, especially in areas like Binghamton, like the southern tier of New York?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into it, and what you consider your your solar system. So, but typically, to answer it easily, probably 5 to 7 years. But if you buy batteries and add that to the cost of the system, storage, and you want to pay that off as well, then obviously it's going to take a little bit longer. And it also depends on if you're putting them on the ground or if you put them on your roof. If you put them on your roof, it really we want to aim the panels as south as possible to get the best sun throughout the year. So if your roof is not exactly at 180 degrees and we're at, say, 175 degrees, it might take a little bit longer.
Are there still some incentives or rebate programs that are available for people who want to acquire a solar energy system?
Yeah, 30% federal tax credit. There's a 25% state tax credit. And then NYSERDA will give you 20 cents per kilowatt right now. I'm sorry, per watt. So if you have a 7,500 watt system, which is pretty typical for, say, a smaller house or a 3-bedroom house, that would be about a $1,500 cash back to the customer incentive.
Are the solar panels really heavy? I mean, are there some houses that just don't have a roof structure that will be able to support them?
So the first thing we do is look at the condition of your roof. Like, I don't want to put solar on your house and then have you call me in a couple years and have us have to take them off because you have to put a new roof on, right? I'm not there to sell you something and then have to take them off in another 2 years. So we're going to look at the condition of the roof. We get access to the attic, and then we take pictures, measurements, and the engineers actually put a stamp on it. So we generally, I can't think of a single home that we weren't able to put solar on.
Now, there are some people in my neighborhood who have had solar panels installed over the last couple of years, and all the solar systems that I've seen, residential solar systems around me, appear to be just on the rooftop. Are there any residential systems that are not installed on the top of a home?
Yeah, we do quite a lot of ground mount for residential. They're generally more rural, where people have a little bit more land to give up. If you're in town and you only have a quarter of an acre and you got houses next to you, that's blocking the sun to get to those ground mounts. But if you have a couple acres and you don't have any trees or anything there, ground mounts are a great option. We can point them 180, so they're directly south. We put them on the pitch that on our longitude and latitude, we want about a 30-degree pitch of the panel, meaning we want it tilted at 30 degrees. So like if a house is at 12 degrees, like the slope of your roof is a 12-degree pitch, like we have to work with what we got there. But the ground mounts, we can make them whatever we need them to be. So they're a great option, especially in this area.
It's 9:41 WNBF Live. We're speaking with Chris Jenkins, the owner of My Solar Grid in Endicott, about maintenance considerations. Do people need to think about certain maintenance issues if they're going to have a solar installation put in their home?
No, solar's really pretty low maintenance. There's really no moving parts. The biggest issue you're going to have, if you ever have an issue, is with your inverters. So it's every single inverter company has a data program. So it's like logging on to a website so you can see how much your system produced daily. Like some people, when they first get it, they watch it hourly.
So you can monitor in real time?
Yep. I think they're maybe like 20 to a half an hour.
But virtually real
time, correct, yeah. So it's almost like a game to them to see how much energy they've produced. It wears off a little bit, but I'd say check that every, once a month, once every couple months to make sure that there's nothing wrong with your inverters. But outside of that, they're pretty maintenance-free, and that's the beautiful part about them.
Are the systems that are used for businesses really any different from what are installed for residential operations?
Maybe the size, just depending on the electrical load. And that's like anytime you go to a website and we're trying to collect information or asking you to call us, it's because every home is different. Everybody uses electricity different. There's no like one size fits all. We're not trying to just get your phone number so we can call you, right? It's so we could come out, give you an evaluation of your electric bill, evaluate the home, check what kind of shading issues, if you have any, and build the best system that we can give you for what you're trying to accomplish.
Why do you think this is a good time for people to give you a call and get some more information about the systems that you offer?
Well, utility rates are going up every couple months, it seems. And like about a month or two ago, NYSEG came out with an article. They're going to be raising rates through, I think, 2026. The incentives are still there. I'd say get there before the incentives start to dissipate. I know Congress signed it through, I think, 3033. Don't quote me on that one. I might be wrong, but those incentives are not, I would assume, are not always going to be there. So I would take advantage of it while you can.
So what's the best way that people can get in touch with My Solar Grid?
They can give us a call at 607-785-6499, or they can go to our website, mysolargrid.com. You can fill out a simple online form, set up an appointment. We can come out and see your house.
Chris Jenkins, the owner of My Solar Grid in Endicott, thanks for joining us here in the studio.
Thank you, Bob.
Hope you have a great day.
You too.
Keep an eye out for that thing that's going to happen next Monday afternoon. By the way, speaking of that, what's that going to do to solar systems? Not so much around here. Look, people in Rochester and Syracuse, they're probably worried that their solar panels are going to get confused when the time of totality at 3:20 p.m. Do they need to do anything? Do they need to cover up their solar panels for half an hour?
I imagine production will go down for a little bit, but I would anticipate it to come right back.
That's the one thing I haven't heard covered yet, but somebody is going to cover it between now and Monday.
I literally saw an article on it online yesterday that a solar expert said that production will be down next Monday, and I thought, you really needed an expert for that? But
what we really need, we need lots of angles that we haven't covered yet. I bet Monday night or Tuesday morning we'll see some reporting. Somebody will show the difference between, say, what it was, say, at 2:30 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon versus what it's like at, say, 3:20 or 3:25. I bet that'll be one of the stories we'll see at least on one of the cable channels.
I'm waiting for the calls. We've gotten calls about people telling us that their solar's not working at night.
Hey, it's an emerging technology. Not everybody understands.
I think when people, they just don't think through things before.
One other question. We didn't touch on snow. So say sometimes when we get heavy snowfall, 2 inches might not seem like much, but say, I remember in December 2020, this area some people received as much as 4 feet of snow. What does that mean? Can really heavy, wet snow damage the solar panels?
It's probably not going to damage them, but they're not going to be producing a lot if they're covered up. Generally speaking, if you can get like a snow rake or whatever and just clean off a corner of one of them, they'll start heating up, and then they're pretty slick, and the snow will just slide right off. Or you can just wait, and the sun will take care of the work for you when it warms up a little bit. And in those types of situations, you're probably not making a lot of solar anyway.
Chris Jenkins from My Solar Grid, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
It's 9:47. It's WNBF Live on your Tuesday morning.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
So it starts recording?
It's an email from Kathy Hochul. It says, Bob, listening to the program, stop referring to me. I'm sick and tired of hearing your references to the governor of New York.
Don't think sorry is easily said.
I'm sorry, Governor. Very sorry.
Don't try, turn the tables instead.
By the way, I'm kidding about that. Some people think the governor would actually email me. Come on, man.
Lots of chances before.
go to Owego. Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning, Bob. I was about to say, are you wasting your time trying to contact her? Because she definitely wouldn't contact you.
I'm not going to ever contact her. What's the point? I learned my lesson long ago to just not contact governors, not even try. Same with Schumer or Gillibrand. They don't want to talk. What I did 2 years ago, out of the blue, when we had all that heavy snow, I discovered that Kathy Hochul's people knew about me and knew about the program because they called right before the 9 o'clock news to ask if I wanted to talk to the governor. That's when we had all the snow in mid-April of 2022. Yeah, and that's the only time she's been on the program. So obviously, and by the way, my recollection is it went fine. But that's the only time she's ever come on. She doesn't want to come on to just talk about the issues. She wants to come in, or not come in. She would never come in here. The last time she was on Court Street, she had a choice of two things. She was at Court and State Street. Either come into the Binghamton Now studio and take some calls from listeners like you, Jesse, or go to the weed store and encourage people to smoke ganja. So, you know what she did. She did a commercial for the weed store, and then she drove past the Binghamton Now studio and said, I don't want to talk to those people.
Well, the only reason why it went so smoothly is because she was the one making the bullet points and not you.
Yeah, I mean, and it was fine. By the way, don't, for the governor's people who obviously listen every day, they may not want her to call in and talk about the issues, but they still listen every day. Don't take it the wrong way. The next time we get hit by a big snowstorm or an earthquake or a flood or a solar eclipse, she is welcome to call in. You know, I don't hold grudges. I wish she would call in and talk about the late budget. You know, why isn't she calling in to explain how she and the legislative leaders could not get an on-time budget this year? That would be relevant. I would speak with her about that.
I do have an answer for you. Do you know why she calls in only during emergency events? Because she's an accidental governor.
Yeah, but her predecessor did the same thing. Actually, he never called in at all. So Andrew Cuomo was on this program, or at least on WNBF. I don't think this program had started. But Andrew Cuomo was on WNBF Live when he was Attorney General. So it was good for him when he was Attorney General. But when he was governor, obviously his advisor said, oh, you don't want to talk with that guy. He always has a few questions. So, you know, at least to Kathy Hochul's credit, and I'm not saying this in a mean way, to her credit, her people actually set up that live interview, and I think we talked for 10 minutes about, because we had, if you recall, Jesse, there were more than 50,000 NYSEG customers in Broome County without power after that mid-April snowstorm 2 years ago. So it was certainly relevant for her to call in, and certainly the next time we have a big snowstorm in April or May or June, or the next time there's a flood or an earthquake or an eclipse, she's welcome to call in and we'll talk. And if that's all they want, I mean, I respect if that's all they want. If they want her to only call in and talk about a single topic, I will reluctantly agree. You know me, I'd rather talk about other topics too. But say if she wants to just get a certain message out to people in Binghamton and Owego about a particular topic, that's fine. You know, I respect it. If they can either imply or say directly, the governor wants to talk to you, Bob, only about the solar eclipse, nothing else. And I would say, okay. And I wouldn't try to be funny about it. If that's what the guidance they gave, and I agreed to it, I would just say, thank you, Governor, and I hope we have a chance to speak again in the future. I'm here. I'm not here for myself. I'm here to allow information to be transmitted using our state-of-the-art transmitters.
Well, I do understand where you're coming from, and that's why I called in. My main issue is in that we are having elections today. My problem is with the Board of Elections here at Owego. Now, I live right here on historic Lake Street. So one would think when the mayor was being elected, there would have been a letter in my mailbox or something that would have said we are holding elections for mayor. Now, I think there should have been another letter in the mail that said we're having a primary election. You know what? I've received neither. If it wasn't for the Tioga County Courier and the Owego Penny Saver, I would have had no clue outside of listening to your show.
All right. By the way, one of our listeners thanked me. Beth, who is a Broome County resident, she actually sent an email and said thank you for announcing the New York State primary day for Democrats and Republicans. She said nothing in the newspaper, social media, or on local news till now. So she said thank you, WNBF. So, in my opinion, even though some people are starting the day thinking they know the outcome of the primary elections in New York, that's not the point. The point is there are primary elections being held today, and the voting continues till 9 p.m. So if you're registered as a Republican or a Democrat, go out and vote. Now, I cannot vote today because I am not registered with a party. So I have to sit this one out, but I still encourage active participation for Republicans and Democrats in this primary. Just because, somebody said, well, I know who my party's nominee is going to be, so what's the point? That's not the point. It's primary day, so vote if you can. Now, if you're sick or if you really have a packed schedule and there's absolutely no way you can get to your polling place today, okay, next time try to plan better or vote early or whatever. But otherwise, if you're physically able to, go out and vote. Would it kill you?
Well, okay. You said this earlier, or maybe Don Morgan did. Weather dependent, and if I run out of beer, I got to go on a beer run.
Well, that's another thing. So why don't they experiment and say, now in New York State, they could try it only in the town of Owego, just as an experiment for all voters, all registered voters who show up today. You get a certificate for a 6-pack of beer or an ounce of the best weed. If you're over 18, 21. No, that's right. The age is 21. I don't want to get in trouble for encouraging anybody between 18 and 21 to drink beer or smoke weed. But if you're over 21 and you're registered to vote, you get a coupon that redeemable for a 6-pack of beer, or no, not an ounce. That would be too much, but a little bit of legal weed at official New York State government licensed weed checks. Just see how I guarantee if they did that experiment, they announced it, say if Governor Hochul announced at 10:10 on this program that she's going to conduct that experiment between noon and 9 p.m. at Tioga County polling places, I bet thousands of people would vote today.
I would say that should apply only to people over 60 that can still walk and talk.
No, I say it should apply only to people who say the magic words, Binghamton Now. When they show up at their polling place, all they have to say is, I listen to Binghamton Now, and then the person, as they check off and get your signature and give you your ballot, then they say, oh, here you go. You don't even have to ask. You get a coupon. How about this? No, a coupon for either a 6-pack of beer, a little sampler of whatever at a legal weed place, or a chocolate bar.
You know what? You just gave me the ultimate challenge, and I'm going to take you up on it. I'm going to let the rain calm down a little bit. I'm going to walk down there
and vote. Vote.
As soon as I open up that door, Bob, I promise you.
All right. They're open already. They opened already. The voting places are open. Go vote if you're registered. It's 9:59. News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com.
This is News Radio 1290 AM, WNBF Binghamton. Now on 92.1 FM, W221 EJ Binghamton, a town square.
where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Rain today, high near 47. Rain will continue tonight. It'll be breezy, low around 38. And Wednesday will also be breezy with rain and a high near 43. The judge in Donald Trump's hush money criminal case has been expanded. The former president's gag order after Trump assailed the judge's daughter and made a false claim about her on social media last week. Judge Juan Merchan said Monday that his original gag order issued last Tuesday did not include members of his family, but Trump's subsequent actions warranted including them. Merchan wrote that Trump's pattern of attacking family members of presiding jurists and attorneys assigned to his cases serves no legitimate purpose. A violation could result in Trump being held in contempt of court, fined, or even jailed. A property on Court Street in downtown Binghamton will soon be renovated by an architectural business that recently moved into the building. The founding partners of L2 Studio Architecture are planning a major makeover of the 3-story structure at 134 Court Street. The firm acquired the property for $165,000 last June. The building, which was constructed in 1866, had previously been owned by the Landmark Church. Layton said the first phase of the planned renovation project calls for repointing the brick exterior. That work is expected to be done this summer. The offices of the architectural firm have occupied the first floor of the building for the past several months. The second and third floors of the building are to be transformed into a pair of 3-bedroom apartments. Those floors, which may not have been occupied for decades, were gutted by previous owners. The project is eligible for state and federal tax credits because of the historic nature of the building. Details of the planned renovations will be outlined for members of the city's Commission on Architectural and Urban Design at its Tuesday afternoon meeting. Construction on a big project to provide better child care and housing options in downtown Binghamton could get underway next fall. The YWCA of Binghamton is finalizing its plans for the initiative that's been in the works for years. The agency executive director said 5 properties on Carroll Street and Lyle Avenue have been acquired for what is expected to be a $34 million project. 68 affordable housing units are to be built as part of an intergenerational campus planned for Lyle Avenue. One existing building is to be demolished to clear the way for the project. The former Broome County Urban League building at 45 Carroll Street will be renovated for a new child care center. That center will be able to accommodate 96 children. Half of the housing units in the new complex will be dedicated to domestic violence survivors. The units will provide long-term housing and won't serve as a shelter facility. Groundbreaking for the YWCA project could occur next fall. Construction work for the complex is expected to take 2 years to complete. Inmates in New York are suing the state corrections department over the decision to lock down prisons during next Monday's total solar eclipse. The suit filed Friday in federal court in upstate New York argues that the April 8th eclipse is an event significant to many religions and that the lockdown violates their constitutional rights to practice their faiths. The plaintiffs are 6 men with varying religious backgrounds who are incarcerated at the Woodburn Correctional Facility. A Corrections Department spokesperson said the agency doesn't comment on pending litigation, but is currently reviewing all religious accommodation requests related to viewing the eclipse. New York State Police say 2 men from Zingel froze to death and were found in the snow of a wooded area close to the Canadian border. The bodies of the 2 men were found Monday in the border town of Moores during a routine patrol. Both men were 25 years old and from Dakar. Authorities did not say why they believe the men were in the woods. Their bodies were found in a rural part of northern New York that has become increasingly popular for people trying to cross illegally into the United States from Canada by foot. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Bob Joseph. You're listening to Binghamton Now on News Radio, WNBF and WNBF.com. And we'll be taking more phone calls coming up in a few minutes. So if you have some thoughts, I encourage you to hold on to those thoughts. And we will open up the phone lines in just a few minutes on this Tuesday morning. News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. The Binghamton Philharmonic Orchestra will soon be presenting Roman Holiday. It's coming up this Saturday evening at the Forum Theater on Washington Street here in downtown Binghamton. And joining us now to offer a little preview is Julia O'Connell. Welcome back to WNBF.
Thanks, Bob. Happy to be here.
Oh, hold on. Wait a second. Oh, now people will be able to hear you. See, they don't.
Happy to be here,
see,
Bob.
They don't give these shows to chimps because chimps would have to be paid too much.
Technical difficulties or not, I'm still glad.
Operator error. It's called. There are three. There's an individual control for each of the microphones. And one could say that it's my fault, but it's not technically my fault because they actually wired them backwards.
Sounds like 3 Mile Island 2.0.
Absolutely.
Human error.
Have you ever been there? In Middletown?
No. I've been to Harrisburg, but I've never been to TMI.
Oh. Sometime, I don't, probably, they used to offer public tours, but I bet after I was there for the public tour, and it was fascinating. I mean, obviously, I think the number 2 reactor was closed at the time because apparently they were still mopping up or trying to get their story straight. But after the tour, the tour guide, and she was very knowledgeable. She worked, I think, then the company GPU Nuclear was running the place.
Amazing.
Or attempting to.
Amazing.
Yes. And there's a question and answer period. And man, I bombarded her with so many questions.
How did this happen,
really?
Number one?
Really. And do you have those yellow booties that President Carter wore when he toured the place? You remember President Jimmy Carter, I think on a Sunday, was at TMI wearing these yellow booties to protect his feet from radiation.
Hazmat booties,
yeah,
huh?
Good times. Good times. We haven't seen a president like that since.
Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about what is coming up this Saturday at the Forum Theater here in downtown Binghamton. Roman Holiday being presented by the Binghamton Philharmonic Orchestra.
Yes, and this is our final concert in our M&T Bank Symphonic Series, and we are going out with a bang. This is going to be the biggest orchestra that we've had on stage throughout the entire season. So the huge orchestra is for the last piece on the program, The Pines of Rome by Ottorino Respighi, a beautiful piece, a thrilling piece written in the 1920s, which is all about celebrating the glory of Italian history. So we have an enormous orchestra on stage for that, and the music evokes the Roman cityscape with its iconic pine trees. And it's a trip through time, it's a trip through space, and in the end you hear this enormous, enormous sound evocative of ancient Rome. Great piece.
Wow. That sounds incredible.
It is so cool, Bob.
So
I hope you come.
Well, let's see, Saturday at 7:30. I might be able to.
Washing your hair that night?
No, actually, probably brushing the dogs. It's like, oh, look, Audrey, that's a lot of fur. Oh, Daisy, you need to be brushed too.
This music is so cool.
Well,
Can't lie to you. It's wonderful.
Well, I may have to make it a point to check it out. It sounds fascinating. Tell me a little bit about the people who will be involved in this production.
So this is us. This is the Binghamton Philharmonic Orchestra. Our wonderful maestro, Daniel Heggie, who, if you've ever been to one of our shows, not only is he a great musician, but he's also just so wonderfully engaging. He talks to the audience, he gives you a little bit of background, and he makes it just a delightful experience for everybody, whether you are a longtime classical music lover or whether this is a first time for you. He welcomes you in. And this is a wonderful program also for first-time concert goers because it's a wonderful variety. We have this great piece, which I just mentioned, The Pines of Rome, which is like this panoramic, cinematic experience. Loud, wonderful. And that's in the second half. But in the first half, we're showcasing the work of a local-ish composer, Roberto Sierra, who teaches at Cornell University. He is a Puerto Rican native. His music is sort of an amalgam of European and Caribbean styles. So the first piece on the program is by this distinguished professor of music, Roberto Sierra, at Cornell University, and his piece is called Fandangos, and what he does is he draws on historical Spanish dances and gives them a unique twist. Lots of percussion in that piece, lots of trumpets. So it's a really upbeat, thrilling, fast-paced introduction to the concert. And then we go on to Tchaikovsky, whose music is always crowd-pleasing, a beautiful piece he wrote called Capriccio Italien. And basically, it's a postcard of a trip he took to Italy, and he's taking actual, Italian folk songs, dances, the tarantella, and putting them into this beautiful, uplifting, almost folk-like setting.
So the concert will be Saturday night at 7:30, but
yes,
wait, there's more. Before that, at 6:30... You are giving a presentation. Tell me about the pre-concert chat.
It's me, yes, it is me. So I am giving a pre-concert chat, and I do these before each of our classical concerts, each of the concerts in the M&T Bank Symphonic Series. So basically, I'm setting the stage, and usually what I do is I pick one piece to talk about in depth, and I like to give the historical context. So I'll be talking about Respighi's piece, which I love, and my talk is titled "The Glory That Was Rome: Music and Politics in Fascist Italy," because believe it or not, this was the 1920s, and this was the time when Italy was under the thumb of Mussolini. So what does music mean in this context? And in fact, what does this particular music mean? If we're talking about the glory that was Rome, are we also talking about the so-called new Caesar, Mussolini?
Ooh.
Intriguing. Music and politics.
Yes. I don't often think about the two together, but I'd like to do a chat in the future about music and politics in 2024, but I'll save that for a future program.
Yes, we'll talk. You
Yes,
and I
we
will talk about that. That'll be a great chat.
Yes.
The pre-concert lecture is free.
Excellent. And also, though, on Thursday evening at the Forum, there is a special free event for families, for people who would like to learn more about Caribbean music.
Yes, and that is me again. I wear many hats. So these are family symphony sessions, and this is a program that we offer on the Thursday night before every Saturday classical concert. And we invite children and their families to come to the Forum Theater at 6:30 p.m. for free for a family-friendly, age-appropriate talk about the music that's going to be presented on Saturday. So for the family symphony session, I'm going to be focusing on our local composer, Roberto Sierra, and his mashup of European and African and Indigenous Caribbean music. And I'm going to be showing all of the threads that combine together in Caribbean music and teaching the children a Caribbean dance. So it's going to be really fun. And then the children and their families get to hear the dress rehearsal for Saturday's concert.
Excellent. Excellent. So, as far as people making plans for Saturday evening, how can they obtain tickets?
They can obtain tickets by going to binghamtonphilharmonic.org. We have tickets of every price, and children 17 and under always attend for free.
Thank you so much for the information.
Thank you.
Julia Grella O'Connell, Director of Education and Community Engagement for the Binghamton Philharmonic Orchestra.
Thanks, Bob. See you at the forum.
Yeah. I'll show you the rain.
Thank you.
Singing in the rain.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go
Crying
out
in the rain.
We'll have a special impromptu concert, Hands Across Binghamton, this afternoon at 12:30. We'll get everybody from Binghamton to hold hands and sing in the rain.
That could be really good for civic engagement. I'm for that.
See? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, have to give people a little more than 2 hours notice, though. We'll plan it someday this summer when we know it's going to be rainy, not necessarily stormy, but rainy, and we'll call it Singing in the Rain, Hands Across Binghamton.
Binghamton Rain Festival.
I love it. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day.
You too, Bob. Thank you.
It's 10:19. We'll be taking your phone calls now at 607-772-1290. If you have some things you'd like to talk about, call us. 607-772-1290.
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. Shop Toyota, Chevy, BMW, and pre-owned at galtauto.com.
First News Binghamton. News Radio 1290. WNBF.
I'm only happy when it rains. I'm only happy when it's complicated. And though I know you can't appreciate it, I'm only happy when it rains. You know I love it when the news is bad. Why it feels so good to feel so sad. I'm only happy when it rains.
Happy when it rains? I think not. It's 10:23. I'm desperately unhappy when it rains. And I'm desperately hoping for sun. At least next Tuesday. Let's hope the sun returns by Tuesday morning. Right, people? Oh, my gosh. We do have our fun here at the station. Bob Joseph, Tuesday morning, just the fun you need. The fun you need. The fun you didn't know you needed. Here's the forecast now from the National Weather Service. Rain today, high 44. Precipitation amounts 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. Rain tonight, low 39. 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch of rain tonight. But wait, there's more. Rain tomorrow, heavy at times. It'll be breezy, high 41. Another 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of rain. Thursday, snow showers in the morning, rain showers in the afternoon. With a high of 40. Right now in downtown Binghamton, it's 46. No, it's 42. That's 6 Celsius. Here's some guidance from the National Weather Service. An additional round of rainfall tomorrow, heavy at times, may result in some small stream and poor drainage flooding. Minor river flooding is possible later in the week as well. So be sure to stop by your new or used ARC dealer. See if you can get a good buy before all the best ARCs have been taken. Rain will change to sleet and snow Wednesday night into Thursday with some elevation-dependent accumulations. Any accumulations of snow and sleet may result in slick spots. Gusty winds tomorrow on the order of 35 to 50 miles an hour may bring down some trees and wires. Okay. Bring back winter. Right now, again, it's 42 in downtown Binghamton at WNBF. Oh, for the people who care about the air that they breathe, the air quality index is 32. They say that's good. It's 10:25, WNBF and Binghamton Now with Bob Joseph.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
It's 10:28, WNBF with Bob Joseph live in Living Keller. And coming up, we're going to be talking about the Village of Endicott. So if you want to know the very latest about Endicott, New York, things that are going on now and some things that will be happening in the months ahead, stay tuned because WNBF is here for you. We bring you the information that you need. Stay tuned. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, and streaming at WNBF.com.
News Radio 1290 WNBF. Endicott's up by 5 o'clock. Endicott's giving it all he got. Endicott's job is 6 to 9, but Endicott's home by 9:05. Endicott goes to cook the steak. Endicott goes to wash the plates. Endicott puts the kids to bed. Endicott reads a book to them.
Why can't you be like Endicott?
Everybody wants to be like Endicott. I know I want to be. It's 10:31. Let's salute the Village of Endicott. We're now joined by the mayor, Nick Burlingame. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Bob.
How are things in the village? How are the village people doing?
Village people are doing well.
All right. Glad to hear that. So what's the latest? Let's dive right in. When will the work on Washington Avenue get underway?
Well, the highly anticipated Washington Avenue project is slated to begin on April 15th with an end date of November 14th.
So we are getting desperately close. This is the thing that so many people in Endicott have been talking about, both residents and merchants along the avenue and just other people as they look forward to the future of the village. So this is a big project. Tell our listeners what they can expect starting later this month.
So the construction company is going to basically redo the entire Washington Avenue from building to building, starting with the water infrastructure, doing some things to the sewer system, and all the way up a brand new Washington Ave, new roadways, new sidewalks, new street lights, garbage cans. The entire Ave from building to building will be renovated and should be looking beautiful by the end of the year.
Now, how has it been decided yet exactly how this will proceed? Because I know when we spoke a few days ago, some of the logistical considerations had not been finalized for how the contractor and subcontractors will be working along the avenue from North Street down to East Main Street. How will they approach this significant project?
So it hasn't completely been decided. During our pre-construction meeting, they talked about closing the center and the east side of the street so they can do the whole water main all the way down. Now they've kind of pushed back and said, well, we might rather do block by block. So we're kind of looking at it in terms of businesses. We're obviously going to advocate for our existing businesses. We want to inconvenience them as little as possible to make sure that they stay open and do well during this construction period. So we haven't really made a final determination yet. Ultimately, it'll come down to our engineers. who make that decision.
And bottom line, whether it's the work that's planned on the Avenue in Endicott or any projects of this magnitude, it's bound to involve some inconvenience, and it's going to make, at least for a time, for some weeks or months, things a little more challenging both for businesses and shoppers and say even people who work nearby, say at the Huron campus or other places in that part of the village. I mean, sometimes there'll be detours, but people will have to make some adjustments while that work is underway and then look forward to when the project is actually completed.
Yeah, that's right. And, we're going to encourage as many people as we can in the community to don't ignore Washington Avenue during this time. A lot of the businesses have back entryways or they will be accessible from the front. I'm going to encourage everyone I can to, grab a bite to eat on the Ave. Let's support these businesses during this construction season. And as soon as we get through it, everything will be back to normal, except better.
What is the status of some of the changes that we've been waiting for here on campus, specifically with the much talked about and also much anticipated, maybe even more anticipated than the renovation work to the Avenue, the demolition of the old building group, the old IBM buildings to the east of McKinley Avenue on North Street? Is that likely to happen during the spring or summer months?
It is. So we anticipate the old building group to be demolished sometime in 2024. I'm optimistic for a summer demolition. However, they're still working through a lot of procedural things, but they are making progress. And like I said, I just expect to see the buildings that come down this calendar year.
And I know because we've talked with other village officials and also with Chris Pelto, who oversees the property for Phoenix, the Phoenix investors who now own the Huron campus. It is complicated. Even people see the old buildings that haven't been used for several years, and they think, well, how tough could it be? You just call in somebody like Gorick and bring in their equipment and crews, and they can have that done in a few weeks or maybe a couple months. But there also have been issues that you can't see underground as far as some of the old utility lines and other things that are beneath the surface where the buildings currently stand.
Yeah, it's a massive project, incredible infrastructure, tunnels under the ground, and not to mention just all of the permitting. You have to get a certain amount of MWBE contractors. So there's been a lot of hurdles, but I think they finally got there. So I'm very excited to see some movement here.
Have you heard how long, once they get started with the actual demolition of those old buildings, do they know about how long the project would take from start to finish?
They may know, but I do not.
Okay. Talking with Nick Burlingame, Mayor of the Village of Endicott. Anything else that we can expect over at the Huron property over the next several months? I know they have been working with some existing tenants and also, I believe, having negotiations with potential future tenants. So that could mean other changes that would happen on the 65 acres there that used to be operated by IBM.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of positive things coming out of the campus from existing businesses, companies to new companies. So we are anxiously awaiting to hear if all of these projects move forward. So we're going to remain optimistic and hope for the best here. But I think the campus's future is very bright.
Getting back to Washington Avenue, and I suspect you don't have any really solid answers as to what was going on, but I remember a couple weeks ago when I was over at the former Subway sandwich shop there at 61 Washington Avenue. The place has been closed for, I think, the past year or so. And then we saw signs that said there was some sort of yard sale. Apparently, that's over now. At the best of my knowledge, they finally took out their yard sale merchandise out of the Subway store. Is that correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, it was there's stuff in there. Then a couple days later, it was all gone. So I don't really know what that was about.
Was intriguing, though. Isn't that the first yard sale that we've ever seen on Washington Avenue, at least in recent memory? I mean, a lot has happened on Washington Avenue over the years. I wouldn't say it's the very first, but I had never seen a yard sale on Washington Avenue.
Yeah, it was a little strange, for sure. A little strange.
Yeah. Well, I'm constantly looking for new developments. I know, fortunately, there have been some other businesses that have opened in recent months. I know others are planning to go forward. Plus, I know there are some developers who have a real active interest in lining up new retail outlets and other businesses for the Avenue in the coming year.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive things going on the Ave. The Broome County Art Park, which will be in the infill lot by Endicott Florist. We should start to see some construction there this year, probably later in the year. So that'll kind of coincide with the Washington Ave project. Obviously, O'Reilly's is coming in across from Dunkin' Donuts on Main Street. We have our DRI facade grant that just closed, I think, the 23rd, and we've had over 30 applicants, which I think is outstanding.
Well, that's more applicants. That's a lot more applicants than you expected, correct?
Yes, way more. I think we expected half that. So that gives us a lot of encouragement that people want to invest in their properties and, make Endicott economically viable again.
It's 10:41 on this Tuesday morning at WNBF. We recently reported that the SEP Group of Binghamton was hoping to develop an apartment complex near the St. Ambrose Church. I believe they had plans to use the old St. Ambrose School and the adjacent gymnasium over at Broad Street and Garfield Avenue. Is that project still being considered by the SEP Group?
From my understanding, it is. So that's another interesting piece of information there. So we're optimistic that that's going to continue as well. There's going to be a lot of growth in that area in the next year or two.
And not too far from there, actually, I know Marchuska Development. We spoke with Justin Marchuska, I think, a couple weeks ago when another parcel, it was a house that hadn't been lived in for a while, was torn down adjacent to what had been the Endicott Inn site. Of course, the old Endicott Inn was torn down, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and then Marchuska Development has been working to come up with something. I think it's a mixed-use project. It could be commercial and residential at the south end of Washington Avenue. What do you think about that type of a project?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Any new construction would add to the tax roll, and it would be nice to see something in the long term on that site. It was blight for so many years, and now it's been an empty lot. So to see something back in that location, I think would be extremely beneficial for all of us.
And you touched on just a couple of minutes ago the construction that did get underway really just in I think it was during early to mid-March over at that site that Marchuskas had sold to O'Reilly Auto Parts. So that'll be the first O'Reilly Auto Parts store in this part of New York State.
Yeah, that's really pretty cool. So we're excited to see what happens there. And that whole area seems to be sprouting back to life. I'd love to see something go into the Broad Street School. We haven't had any real biters on that yet, but we're gonna push for that too.
Well, speaking of that, and I know we've touched on that project over the years. We've done no updates recently, but do you think that school ultimately could potentially be used, repurposed for residential. I know from what I've heard in the past, the efforts tended to be for a commercial development, but do you think that has the type of it's the type of situation where it could be redeveloped into residential? The old school at 23 Jackson Avenue, right on the village town of Union line, was renovated after being closed for several years. What about Broad Street School? What do you think the best use of that old school might be?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. It could be a commercial application or residential. I've never toured the building, but from the exterior, it's beautiful. New windows, and with the governor's pro-housing community initiative, I think it is likely that residential could end up in that building.
It's 10:45. We're talking with Endicott Mayor Nick Burlingame. Do you anticipate any new housing projects being announced over the next 6 to 12 months in the village of Endicott?
Not really. There was a developer who bought some land on the north side of Endicott who was potentially interested in developing. They were met with some opposition from the community. So we're not sure if that will move forward or not. I would imagine not, based on the pushback. Obviously, the SEP group, but other than that, there's nothing really on the horizon. We know that the Altura project has been on standstill, but prices are starting to come down, so we're optimistic that might kick back off again. So we'll see. Nothing immediate.
One of the biggest challenges facing the village of Endicott now and in recent years has been the water supply. Trying to make improvements. I know quite often throughout the year we hear from Endicott residents who are very unhappy with sometimes discolored water or other issues. And I know efforts are underway to address the situation, to improve overall water quality, and also to help ensure a better and safe supply of water for the village. Where do things stand with respect to the water system, trying to address some of the issues because of an aging infrastructure, and also developing a new well in the coming months?
Yeah, so water has been the number one issue in Endicott for as long as I can remember. The 100-year-old infrastructure, it's a mess, but we are making systematic progress. We do hope to see a new water well pop up here, which will help alleviate some of the strain on our only well right now, the Rainy Well. So if we can get that online, we'll be in much better shape. Over the years, we've closed wells due to various reasons. South Street, for example, we closed that well because it was pumping brown water right out of the source. So once we closed that well, our water improved a lot. It made a huge difference, huge impact on water. So now we tend to get water whenever there's an event, whether it be a water main break, hydrant flushing, an accident where somebody hits a fire hydrant. That's when we get brown water complaints now. We're not getting them like we used to. So pretty much any time there's a brown water complaint, we can pinpoint why. So I know we're making progress. We're nowhere near solving the problem, but we are making progress. I think we have a good plan, and we're just going to keep plugging away, keep advocating for state, federal funds, and with any luck, we can start getting to the bottom of this.
How come the water well, the new well that the village is planning to develop at the old IBM Country Club property off Watson Boulevard in the town of Union, what seems to be the problem in getting that online? I see I did my first story about the selection of that site just over a year ago, and the last time I was over there, I didn't see any sign of of activity? What's the holdup in getting that well online?
So funding, it all comes down to funding. The previous mayor claimed that the town of Union provided $1 million, which they never did. It was never approved by their board. We knew that. The village board of trustees at the time knew that that was never approved, but because there was no funding at the time, we couldn't move forward. But now we are securing funding, and we are getting closer and closer to moving forward with this project.
Is that likely to be state funding that'll make that possible, to have the new well developed and then put online?
Yeah, likely state funding, and we're going to have to bond. But we'll do what we have to, because water is critical. We need it. It's a matter of basic quality of life.
Talking with the Endicott Mayor, Nick Burlingame. Kmart Plaza. You know, at one time a few years ago, I was under the impression that old building would be torn down. Of course, nothing has been going on at what had been the Endicott Plaza there between Vestal Avenue and Harrison Avenue, really since early September 2011 with the flood-related issues. And yet the building was never torn down. The state provided money for the demolition, but there it sits. And we know at one point there was real excitement, optimism that the company from Vermont had found a place for its new Broome County location, and unfortunately that didn't work out, and so they had to go to Plan B to develop a site in Kirkwood. So what's the status of the old Endicott Plaza building?
Yeah, so that's a really challenging property. Obviously, it's built on a brownfield. It's built on a landfill, a dump. It was awarded money for demolition, but then when Green Mountain wanted to move in, they did not want to tear down the existing structure. They wanted to rehabilitate it. So we had to rescind that original demo grant and request a Restore New York grant for renovations, which we did. And then obviously, as you said, Green Mountain ended up moving to Plan B, Kirkwood. So now we still have a grant available for rehab, but we have no one who wants to rehab it. We've spoken to a lot of potential developers over the last couple months. Everyone who is interested in the property so far is interested in the building, which I find a little interesting. I personally would rather have the building tore down and let's just start fresh, whether it be green space or whatnot. Just let's make it look nice. But ultimately, it's up to Green Mountain, as they are the owners. We have been in close contact with them, trying to work with them to find an adequate solution moving forward. They're motivated, which is good. The old owners were not. So I think I'm optimistic that we may see some movement there in the coming years.
Here's my idea. Chick-fil-A.
Love it.
Can you imagine? People have been focused on so many other sites in Broome County, and they think they have it figured out, and then suddenly it's the world's first 7-day-a-week, 24/7 Chick-fil-A, and be so convenient. The only people who would be unhappy would be probably the people who are operating the fast food restaurant nearby on East Main Street, but I bet they could coexist.
I think so.
I think, and that would put Endicott on the map. The first Chick-fil-A that's open 24/7 and offers free delivery.
Hey, you heard it here first.
People are saying, wait, April Fool's Day was yesterday, Bob. Yeah, that's true. I just didn't think of it. I didn't think of it 24 hours ago. Talking with Endicott Mayor Nick Burlingame. What's the latest with the police department? I haven't heard much, and probably this is a good thing, about crime and the police department in Endicott over the last few months. Have they eradicated crime throughout the village?
Well, we'll never eradicate crime, but we have a phenomenal village board right now. They are dedicated to safety and investing in our police department, getting our officers the best training, best resources, and investing in manpower. Because in order to get rid of crime, we have to target crime. We have to have the manpower to do investigations and solve these issues and figure out what the stem of the problem is and fix it from the source. So we have so lucky to have a good board who supports that. And I think crime has definitely been going down. We'll never get rid of it. But as long as we can identify it and keep cleaning it up, I think we're going to be okay.
What about some of the problem spots in the village? One place that was in the news for several months, maybe more than several months, was this house over at 1000 Monroe Street. Finally, village managed to get the place locked down, and the police were able to take or encourage, I guess strongly encourage people who were staying at that building at 1000 Monroe Street to get out of there, because there had been shootings and a stabbing and fighting and all sorts of issues associated with that place. What's the status of that building? Last time I went by, it was still locked down and didn't look like anything was happening. What might happen next?
So when the Village of Endicott does a lockdown, I consider a lockdown an absolute last resort. Because when you lock a property down, we literally get everyone out, board up the windows, the doors, and basically the property is unusable until someone goes to the courts and requests that it becomes unlocked down. So it was an extreme measure. I think it had to be done because there was so much illegal activity coming out of that property. Now we're stuck with a boarded up building. I'll be curious to see if it ends up going for taxes. If they don't pay their taxes, which I don't know if they're current on or not. If it goes up for tax sale, I think that would be our best bet to see some improvement, whether it's somebody who renovates it or possibly even demolishes the building. So we'll see. The problem, it's never the house that's the problem, it's the people who live in the house. So now we're chasing these people because they've moved to another house. So it's an ongoing problem, but we're just going to keep the heat on them, and maybe they'll move to Johnson City.
Well, I'm sure Mayor Martin Maney will be anxious to welcome them to his village. One other quick thing, we only have a few seconds left, but a more visible problem spot had been a store over at the corner. It was a deli and grocery at the corner of North Street and Washington Avenue. That place is still vacant. I know the village was on the verge of locking it down. Have you heard anything more about what might happen with that now empty storefront?
We have not. We've heard that it's actually a new owner of that property, and they are committed to finding a good long-term tenant that fits in with the characteristic of the neighborhood. So I think that they're going to be very selective before they lease that to another tenant. So that should be a good thing.
Well, especially because it's so close to Huron campus and highly visible. Endicott Mayor Nick Burlingame, thanks for answering a few questions today. I hope we can have you back on the program soon.
All right. Thanks, Bob. Have a good day.
You as well. It's 10:58. Binghamton Now, WNBF.
Where news breaks first. News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is News Radio 1290 WNBF News. Today, rain with a high near 47. Rain continues tonight, low around 38. Breezy with rain on Wednesday and a high near 43. Construction on a big project to provide better child care and housing options in downtown Binghamton could get underway next fall. The YWCA of Binghamton is finalizing its plans for the initiative that's been in the works for years. Agency Executive Director Carol Coppins said 5 properties on Carroll Street and Lyle Avenue have been acquired for what is expected to be a $34 million project. 68 affordable housing units are to be built as part of an intergenerational campus planned for Lyle Avenue. One existing building is to be demolished to clear the way for the project. The former Broome County Urban League building at 45 Carroll Street will be renovated for a new child care center. That center will be able to accommodate 96 people. Half of the housing units in the new complex will be dedicated to domestic violence survivors. The units will provide long-term housing and won't serve as a shelter facility. Groundbreaking for the YWCA project could occur next fall. Construction work for the complex is expected to take 2 years to complete. A property on Court Street in downtown Binghamton will soon be renovated by an architectural business that recently moved into the building. The founding partners of L2 Studio Architecture are planning a major makeover of the 3-story structure at 134 Court Street. The firm acquired the property for $165,000 last June. The building, which was constructed in 1866, had previously been owned by the Landmark Church. The first phase of the planned renovation project calls for repointing the brick exterior. That work is expected to be done this summer. The offices of the architectural firm have occupied the first floor of the building for the past several months. The second and third floors of the building are to be transformed into a pair of 3-bedroom apartments. Those floors, which may not have been occupied for decades, were gutted by previous owners. The project is eligible for state and federal tax credits because of the historic nature of the building. Details of the planned renovations will be outlined for members of the city's Commission on Architecture and Urban Design this afternoon. Donald Trump has posted a $175 million bond in his New York civil fraud case, halting collection of the more than $454 million he owes and preventing the state from seizing its assets to satisfy the debt while he appeals. That's according to a court filing made public on Monday. A New York appellate court had given the former president 10 days to put up the money after a panel of judges agreed last month to slash the amount needed to stop the clock on enforcement. One of Trump's lawyers says, quote, he looks forward to vindicating his rights on appeal and overturning this unjust verdict. Voters in 4 states will weigh in on their party's presidential nominees, a largely symbolic vote now that both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have locked up the Democratic and Republican nominations. Biden and Trump are both expected today to easily win primaries in Connecticut, New York, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin, and add to their delegate hauls for their party conventions this summer. The decisions will nevertheless offer clues about enthusiasm among base voters for the upcoming 2020 rematch that has left a majority of Americans underwhelmed. In September, Hyundai and Kia issued a recall of 3.4 million of its vehicles in the United States with an anonymous warning. The vehicles should be parked outdoors and away from buildings because they risked catching fire, whether the engines were on or off. 6 months later, most of those autos remain on the road, unrepaired, putting their owners, their families, and potentially other people in danger of fires that could spread to garages, houses, and other vehicles. Hyundai and Kia have acknowledged that there's little hope of repairing most of the affected vehicles until June or later, roughly 9 months after they announced the recalls. That's a look at news. For updates on local news, weather, sports, and features, open up the WNBF app and online at WNBF.com. This is News Radio 1290 WNBF.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
This is Bob Joseph. Binghamton Now continues on a Tuesday morning here on WNBF.
Tell it to my heart. Tell me I'm the only one. Is this really love or just a game? Tell it to my heart. I can feel my body rock every time you call my name.
607-772-1290. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Jesse from Owego. This is a voting update, Bob.
Okay. Live voting update from Owego.
I took on the Nest Key Challenge. I walked in there. As soon as I opened up the door, I go, hi. I listen to Binghamton Now with Bob Joseph, and everybody broke out in laughter.
Well, the program, I will say this, the program is big in Owego. You know, we cover more Owego news than anyone else.
Well, I didn't mention myself by name, but one woman looked at me and she goes, are you Jesse from Owego? I go, yes, I am. And it was hilarious, Bob. And by the way, that Vivek Ramaswamy, however you say his name, I never knew how it was spelled until I seen it on the ballot. I'm like, oh, that's how you spell the last name. And then I pulled one of your tricks by mistake. I thought it was one of those permanent markers that you just, you pull the top off. No, it turned out to be one of them pens that you click. So I pull out the pen. The thing broke off in like 4 pieces. So I'm trying to put it back together and trying not to get noticed, but I was noticed.
You remember that one guy? He used a Sharpie on a weather map, and he was during a live news conference. He was altering the National Weather Service map of where the hurricane was going, and he used like a Sharpie to change the path and scare the crap out of people. Oh, sorry.
He is no longer alone. Now I think I'm in the same kind of company in a way.
That's called Sharpie fun.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to dog lovers who may have Shar-Pei fun. Because I love Shar-Peis, but I don't like Sharpies. The problem with Sharpies is they eventually run out of ink, but Shar-Peis are capable of providing companionship and love for many years. So I prefer Shar-Peis versus Sharpies, but
you know what I'm thinking about doing? I might mail you a box of pens because I know when you get in your moods, I can hear that pen banging on the counter.
I can't help it. It's a nervous habit, and I'm sorry because I know it's distracting. If you think, and I know a lot of listeners hear this too, if you think it's distracting on the air to hear all this pen tapping, imagine how distracting it is to me in the studio where it's actually going on. And I can't help it. It's a nervous habit.
It is a dirty job, but someone has to do it, and at least you're live and local.
Yeah, well, it's a nervous tick, and I'm worried I'm going to get Lyme disease.
Well, there's your voting update, live
all right,
and local from Owego.
Thank you. And that is the story from Owego, making contemporary news. 607-772-1290. Have you voted today? Have you voted? This is important. If you are a registered Republican or Democrat in New York State, the polls are open. We've gone to the trouble of opening the polls to each and every one of you registered Republicans and Democrats. So don't make me think that I've wasted all my money by paying to open the polls and only a few people show up. Remember, it's your civic duty. If you're a registered member of one of the major political parties, it's your civic duty to vote today in the primary in New York State. It's 11:14. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Bob. How you doing today?
I am great. How are things?
Oh, the town of Dickinson's are doing all right.
What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Yeah, did they ever fix that thing over where the bridge used to be, where the pedestrian bridge was? Is that fixed now?
I was hoping, Bob, that they would put a no trespassing sign over there because, Bob, I come home from the hospital I don't know, about 3 o'clock in the morning here, not so long ago, and there was activity there. You know, if they could possibly put up a no trespassing sign, that it might help, Bob, and maybe not, but at least.
Well, you're operating with the assumption that the people, the ne'er-do-wells who are hanging out there know how to read.
Yeah, that's true, Bob.
And the odds are, unless they attended public school, they probably don't know how to read. So therein lies the rub.
Yeah, I got another question. What did they put in Nurseries on the avenue?
Well, nothing yet. That's all I can say. Nothing
Bob,
yet.
That's been empty for a long time.
Well, it was for a while. It was another place, a venue, and it ran. I don't know if it was for 2 years. They had it was sort of they turned it into a banquet facility for a while. So what they did, Allen Memorial Home, which provides funeral services, funeral directors over on East Main Street in Endicott, they had acquired the property that had been the Nurcheese restaurant on the avenue, and for a while they were using it as sort of a venue for banquets. Also, say if there was a funeral luncheon, so people could gather there, say after a funeral service, either at the Allen Memorial Home or at a church, then people could gather over at what had been the restaurant. But they closed it. The gentleman who had been running it, he now has opened a new restaurant on Endicott's north side. So there's another place. I mean, I mentioned to Endicott Mayor Nick Burlingame they could put in a Chick-fil-A over at the old Kmart Plaza near Jenny F. Snap School, but they also could put in a second Chick-fil-A over where Nurcheese was, right next to the hamburger stand. Can you imagine that? They could have two Chick-fil-A's. The big one would be at the Kmart Plaza, and then a satellite office for the kids over at the high school. Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah, it could be. Have you tried that new restaurant on Court Street that used to be down there near the fair store? It could be.
Oh, the guy he's doing hot chickens.
Oh, is he?
It's hot. Yeah, it's. Let me. What did he call it? Nashville hot chickens. Hold on. Because I did a couple stories. I did the story when they opened it up, Nanu's Nashville Hot Chicken over at 7 Court Street. They opened that up just about 2.5 months ago.
Oh, how are they doing for business?
Seems like they're doing quite well.
Oh.
But to be transparent, I haven't had any of their food yet. I went there. They had a big grand opening thing where they were giving away food. Can you believe it? But on opening day, they had this thing where they were giving away food for 6 hours, and I went over there to talk with people who were eating food and they were getting free samples. I mean, the weird thing is when one of the partners, mentioned to me a few days before they had the grand opening that he was going to be giving away free food samples. At first, I thought, well, I don't know if that's a good thing, because if you put word out that you're giving away free food, maybe you're going to get too many people. Giving away free food samples. But they seem to have enough food. I don't think they ran out.
No. Yeah, a friend of mine was to that restaurant across from the radio station there. They say that's a little expensive.
Across from what radio station?
Where you are.
Oh, that one, yeah. Well, they have two restaurants. They have the one that's, I think, sort of, I don't know if it's Tex-Mex, and then they have the other one that has like hamburgers and salads and wings.
Oh,
so I don't know. This is Binghamton, so I don't think it can be very expensive.
I don't know. A friend of mine was on jury duty, and they went and ate there, and they got a big hamburger as big as a plate, and a soda, and it cost them almost $25.
Oh well, maybe, but where they get you is on the soda. So the burger might be relatively cheap, and then like a lot of places, a lot of restaurants, they get their profits from the beverages and from desserts. Did you know that? That's where they get most of their profits from, the beverages they sell you and desserts.
Did you know that McDonald's is gonna sell Krispy Kremers?
Yeah, I heard that, and I'm not sure what the heck they're thinking about that. What do you think about that? I'm surprised we haven't had more calls of because that's going to turn into a big controversy, I bet.
Up here, they sell those cinnamon buns.
Well, are they are those cinnamon buns any good?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are they going to do now if they're going to start selling the Krispy Kreme donuts? Are they going to still have the cinnamon buns?
I think they're trying. I think they're trying to, they're trying to attract more people.
Well, could be. You know how they could really attract more people around here in Binghamton? If they want more people, you know what they could do?
What?
They could sell Spalding Crullers in the orange and white box.
Oh man, they're good.
That's what I'm saying. So, yeah, everybody can get a Krispy Kreme. If I want a Krispy Kreme donut, I'll drive down to Clark Summit after the show and go get a couple of dozen. But you tell me where I can get my Spalding Cruller.
Yeah, well, that place in Vestal closed on up there. What was it, Freehoppers?
Yeah, but it's not owned by Freehoppers. It's owned by Bimbo Bakery. It's owned by a company from Mexico. It's like a conglomerate. They own so many bakeries. They bought the Freihoffers, Entenmann's. They bought out Spalding's. They bought, or at least the brand. I mean, they seem to own it all, and then they just shut down the store. They just shut down the store last month.
So did they shut down the one in Kirkwood?
Well, that had already been closed. That store on Upper Court Street had previously closed. I'm not sure exactly when it closed, but yeah, that was closed before last month. And then a week or two ago, they just mysteriously and secretively shut down that beloved thrift shop where people, you could, I'm not kidding, you could get a thing of bagels. It's a half dozen bagels that might retail for $5 or $6 over at popular supermarkets. You could get those for about probably a third of the price.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
They had donuts, they had cakes, they had bread, they had lots of kinds of bread. They even had those, did you ever see those little pies that you hold in your hand? A little pie, like an apple or cherry pie, you put it in the microwave for about 20 minutes, and then, you have a pie. They had those, I think, for $1, but that's all over.
Oh, I hear there's a bake shop on Court Street.
Where?
I don't know. I heard that they were open, then they closed.
Well, maybe.
Or someplace, I think where the beauty shop used to be, where they sold the supplies.
Oh, well, maybe.
There was a beauty, a bakery there, and they said that they closed. They were only open a short time.
Yeah. Well, I guess I missed it. So I wish I had known. I would have gone there and bought a cake.
Why, for yourself?
Yeah. I bought a big cake for all our listeners.
Oh, okay.
But they're closed. Too late now.
Huh?
It's too late now. If they close down, what can I do?
Yeah, it wasn't too far. It was just before you get to Shenango Street. They got a lot of business in that little area.
Well, it's my neighborhood. People are flocking to this neighborhood. People are. By the way, there'll be some new businesses opening too. So keep an eye on my neighborhood, okay?
Yep.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Have a good day, sweetie.
Thanks. It's 11:25. Mr. Joseph's neighborhood, the best neighborhood in the Parlor City. This is the Tuesday program. I intend to take more phone calls. 607-772-1290. Have you voted today?
From the Galt Auto Studios, this is WNBF News Radio AM 1290. Also available at 92.1 FM. Save in a big way at Galt Chevrolet.
WNBF, Bob Joseph. Blue Jean, I just met a girl named Blue Jean. Blue Jean, she got a camouflage face on the money. Remember, they always let you down when you need them. Oh, Blue Jean is heaven and is sweeter than Blue Jean.
And a turned-up nose. A police bike and a turned-up nose. Well. What can you say? Now, back to the phones. Carol in Johnson City, you're on the air.
Good morning, and I want two subjects, but the second one we might not get to because you might hang up on me. But you are such a patronizer, and I think I called about this once before, and you always reprimand people when they have the radio so loud I can hear you. I don't want to chew my cud twice. You never reprimand this person who you can hear your whole conversation all over again. And you just keep going and going. It's really annoying. It's really annoying. Secondly, I am able to get to the second subject. Hallelujah, praise the Lord. The baseball weather. When I happened to turn it on the day that you were talking about the weather for the eclipse, but I came in on like the tail end of it, so I thought you were like going to be talking about baseball weather on Friday. So what is the forecast for Friday? I watched Channel 12 this morning, and they weren't doing this. I must have missed the 7-day
No, instead,
forecast.
they were talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. When they should have been talking about the weather, they were talking about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh, you're talking about the television?
Yeah, on
I'm
Action
talking about
News. I was watching Action News, and instead of telling me the weather, they're talking about how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the guy who does the weather said he needed a recipe.
Oh my! Well, I must have.
I think he was being funny.
Snippets.
I think he was being funny, so I laughed. But I still didn't hear the weather. They're talking about, peanut butter and jelly and peanut butter. I'm saying, yeah. We know. What's the weather going to be? I'm trying to make plans because I want to go to Syracuse for the eclipse on Monday, but I ain't going if it's snowing.
Why is there supposed to be more visibility further up north?
It's going to be a total eclipse in Syracuse. Here in Binghamton, it's not going to be total, but over at the Destiny USA Mall, I want to go there and hang out on the roof of Destiny USA Mall and look directly at the sun.
We might be seeing your name in the paper for being arrested for being on the roof.
No, because I know the cops in Syracuse. If anything, they're going to give me an attaboy saying you
preferential treatment.
No, they'll just say You, Bob, are the smartest guy in central New York. Nobody else thought about going up here on the roof, so me and the Syracuse cops and the Onondaga County District Attorney, we're going to hang out there from 3 to 4 p.m. on Monday so we can all stare directly at the sun.
3 to 4? Okay, because they're supposed to be here, like, starting at 2:08. I think what Drew said, Drew Desker up at Copernic, until 3:34. Here, anyway, locally.
Right.
2:03 or 2:08 to 3:34. So, anyway, the no comment was made about the, I'll use the word preferential treatment again, but for another subject. It's kind of annoying, Bob.
Well, I'm sure it is, but what are you going to do?
Tell them to turn the radio down.
I don't have the courage.
You're talking to somebody who does.
I know.
So that's why I'm
well, why
saying
don't
it
you
now.
come in here and you could be the enforcer?
No, only because you are always the enforcer. In fact, nobody else does it anymore. They're sort of alerted to it. But and also when you can hear the spouse talking in the background, coaxing coaching what to say sometime. It's kind of...
How do you know it's a spouse? What if it's a mistress?
It's a male voice.
Well,
Okay,
that's
I don't
even
want
more
to-
interesting. So that's even more interesting.
Why? Husband and wife.
You might think, but don't go jumping to a contusion. It's 11:33 at WNBF. DJ from Binghamton. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Total eclipse of the heart. I can't wait. Hey, tell that wonderful person that they need to stop talking about my sweet aunt from the town of Dickinson. She just leaves the radio up so she can hear you twice because you are twice as nice. It's great to hear you twice. Hey, Bob, happy election day, everybody. We're going to vote, and I'm at a cross between Johnny the Trumpet or Don Morgan in the morning. I know that if Don Morgan is president, he will give back the $400,000 each year.
Why don't you write in, just for kicks, why don't you write in Don Morgan?
That's what I meant. I didn't say that. I may have to say may, because I'm not prophesying or prophesying. I have to say that I may write in Don Morgan in the morning. If they make a major mistake and Harry Legs is on there, I don't know. You know, talking about, Carol said something about getting arrested. I once got arrested for aggravated ignorance right after I voted for Obama. I'm kidding. We're going to the Holy Ghost or the Holy Spirit Center today over in the First Ward. So, yeah, I may write in Don Morgan's name. I may write in Johnny the Trumpet. You know who the trumpet is. 7 trumpets before the rapture blows, folks. Get ready. He's the first one. Don Jr. might be the second. Ivanka might be the third. And Barron's grandson might be. Isn't that one? That makes a good Hollywood motion picture, doesn't it, Bob?
I just thought of who I would vote for if I could vote, obviously, since I'm not registered with the party. But say if I was a registered Republican, just for kicks.
Those 4?
What?
Of those 4, Ivanka, Donnie Jr.
No, you know who I would vote for? If I was an enrolled Republican, I could vote today?
Yeah.
I would write in a name.
Who would you write in?
Hunter Biden.
Taylor Swift.
Hunter
yes.
Biden.
Oh, my gosh, Bob.
Because, you know, if I did that, and again, I'm just talking because I can't vote today in New York State because I'm not registered with a party. Can you imagine tomorrow's headline on the front page of the New York Post? Hunter Biden receives a vote in New York's Republican Party in upstate Binghamton.
Well, they're not going to have my name enrolled in the Republican Party either, where I'm going. But you know what? I put that in my notes. I put my other, because I got 2 phones. I put that phone with my notes in it by the door. So yeah, maybe I'll write in Hunter Biden's name. Because
Well, why not? The New York Post will have a field day. They need to sell papers. So can you imagine Hunter Biden receives vote in upstate Binghamton?
I'm going to write in Laptop Boy.
Jeez. You know, I do my best, and then it devolves into that. Come on, man. Say his name. Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden. America's favorite first son. 607-772-1290. This is Bob Joseph, live and in living color.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
Bob Joseph, this is WNBF Live. Binghamton Now. More phone calls more often. Coming up later today on WNBF, noon to 3, Dan Bongino. 3 to 6, Sean Hannity. 6 to 9, Mark Levin. It's all for you today on WNBF and WNBF.com.
I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night. That tonight's gonna be a good night.
Let's hit the phones. Larry in Kirkwood. Good morning.
Dude, you got fooled by that gal. That was fun to listen to. Anyway, DJ, I love my man DJ. Oh, and when Beverly called, you didn't mention her name. Shame on you. You should have mentioned that she was on.
She needs no introduction.
Well, yeah, that's true. But, you know, she's a senior member of our calling cadre, as they say. But anyway, so today, it's all academic, but I'm going to go and vote for the dental today. So I'm happy to do that, even though he's got the nomination lockdown. So,
well, I'm happy for him. You know, he should be happy.
Yep. Anyway, so we're to April there. How do you like that? So.
Yeah, April showers may bring severe flooding.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to my sister-in-law Marie. Today is her birthday, and I talked to her a little while ago. So happy birthday again, Marie.
You should bake her a cake.
Yeah,
a peanut butter and jelly cake. And then whatever's left over, send over to the morning team at Action News.
Well, my sister and I are going to join her at a certain restaurant today with a couple other people along, a couple of my nephews, so that'll be fun later on. So, anyway.
All right. So what do you think you're going to order? A steak?
Oh, depends. I gotta watch my money, you know. I don't have all that much.
All right. Well, why don't you order a steak tartare?
No. I wouldn't do that. Nope.
No, it's good for you. Order steak tartare, and then you call me tomorrow and tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'll come up with a terrible case of botulism or something there.
It's not going to be botulism, that's for sure. Yeah, but make sure that you have, just in case you get steak tartare and you don't fare well, make sure you've attended to, all the arrangements just in case it goes sideways, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I'm not saying that it wouldn't. I know people who've eaten steak tartare and enjoyed it, so I never have, though. I'm half tempted.
I'm a well done guy.
Really? You want your steak well done?
Oh yeah, always.
I want my burgers cooked. For steak, I like my steak medium rare.
I've had rare steak many years ago. My sister and her then boyfriend, who became her husband, she grew up at a cabin, and her husband-to-be made us some rare steaks. And that was interesting, but I wouldn't do that again, So,
well, what you do is you get one of those squirt bottles of A1 sauce and squirt, even for bad meat, you squirt enough A1 sauce on it, you can kind of conceal.
Actually, I'm not really much for A1 sauce.
It's too sweet. And plus, last I knew, they were still putting orange rind and raisins in it. See, that's what galls me. They're putting orange rind and raisins into the A1 sauce, and it's like, Who came up with that?
I'd put a little soy sauce on it.
Well, yeah, a little soy sauce, but...
Soy sauce.
So this is... Listen to this.
Yeah.
So in the A1 sauce, it's not just regular raisins, it's raisin paste. I think that's why it has such... when you open or attempt to, get the stuff out of the bottle, it won't come out. The reason it won't come out, instead of putting regular raisins in, it's raisin paste.
Yeah, to get it all over you.
Well, and if raisin paste wasn't bad enough, then they put in crushed orange puree. So it's no wonder the kids are acting the way they do. They're all hopped up on raisin paste and orange puree. It's a wonder they can think straight.
Okay, Bob.
All right. Well, good luck. So wait. Oh, we lost him. I was going to ask him where his polling place was and ask him if I could meet him over at 12:30 at his polling place. Well, there's an idea. It's 11:44 here at WNBF. So there you go. Now all I can think about is, and isn't this sad? All I want, because of that feature on Action News this morning, all I want is a jelly and peanut butter sandwich, and now I want it topped with A1 sauce. Isn't it sad? Isn't it sad? And today, all I'm going to be able to settle for is a Speedy. I'm going to wind up having a Speedy sub instead of a jelly and peanut butter sandwich topped with A1 sauce, because probably no restaurant downtown will serve that. I'll have to wind up settling for a Speedy. Hi, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Berto, were you trying to say something before I hung up on you there?
Well, I was kidding. I joked after you hung up. I was going to ask where your polling place was and then say I was going to meet you at 12:30, and then we would go out and have, I don't know, a steak or something. But I was kidding. Are you actually, no, will you go and vote?
Yes, we're absolutely going to vote today.
Okay,
yes.
good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm so glad. I bet a lot of our listeners actually will vote, especially since I've been haranguing them for the last 2.5 hours to vote. So I bet even some listeners who had not planned to vote in today's New York primary are going to say, all right, since he made such a big production out of it, I'll go out and vote, but I don't have to like it. So then they'll call in tomorrow and with calls something to the effect, all right, Bob, I went out after the program at 12:15 and voted. Are you happy? And then I'll say, of course I am. Thank you. Thank you for exercising your cherished right as an American to vote. I would vote. I feel left out on primary day because I'm not enrolled in a political party. So I can only observe.
I didn't think you had to be to vote for the presidential candidate.
Yeah, no, you do in New York. Some states, the rules are different, but in New York State, if you're going to vote in a primary, presidential primary or a local primary, you need to be registered with the appropriate party. So all I can do, you know what, I'm going to drive around between 12:30 and 9 o'clock p.m. I'm going to drive around Broome and Tioga counties and just sit in the parking lot at polling places and be jealous of the people who are able to vote.
And cry like a baby, too, right?
Cry like a rabid talk show host. Hey, thanks for calling back. Hope you have a good afternoon, Larry.
Hey, bless you, man.
Thanks. It's 11:47. This is Bob Joseph, the rabid talk show host. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob from Boston.
Hey. Have you voted?
No, who listens to you? You're telling people to vote. People are going to vote if they vote. They don't care what you say. Hey, listen, I'm surprised you took my call. I heard a liberal call last week and say, why don't you tell these people not to even call here? Did I hear that right?
I think you're mistaken.
No, I'm not. Yeah, some guy, I think Bob from Airport Road there or whatever, people like that shouldn't even be allowed. Don't take their call. Is that what people, the freedom of speech, liberals don't care about that no more? I got my opinions, you got your opinions, and those people that call like Matt Ryan, like I said, I think he needs Dr. Phil a couple sessions. That man is obsessed with Donald Trump. So I just wanted to call, let people know I'm still out here, because people love to hear me harangue you, whatever you want to say. But so what's up?
Nothing. I'm just loving the show. What's not to like?
Steak tartare.
Steak tartare. Let's have a steak tartare picnic.
I heard that years ago. What is it, raw steak or something?
It's like steak, but it's tartare. It's like.
And I like steak pink in the middle.
I don't know. I've never had it, so what I think it is, it's steak mixed in with that tartare sauce that most of the time.
I think it's raw or something. I heard years ago.
Come
when I
on,
was a
man.
kid.
Come on, man.
That one guy said he liked his steak well done. My parents used to cook meat to death. It was terrible.
I don't like it. I don't like it when it's
pink. A steak's got to be pink in the middle. That
all right.
flavor.
Here's the official definition of the steak tartare, or some people call it tartare steak. It's a French dish of raw, ground, or minced beef. It's usually served with onions, capers, mushrooms, pepper, and other seasonings. Often presented separately to be added to taste. It's often served topped with a raw egg yolk. It's similar to something I can't even pronounce. It's a Turkish dish and a Korean dish. Says the name
French. I don't want nothing to do with it.
You know what I love? I love French fries. Remember one time?
I love French women.
One time, I love the French model. When they're talking about the weather, the guy on the weather, Bob Buchanan, keeps talking about the European model, and I say, why don't you talk about the French model?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Gina Lollobrigida or whatever.
Yeah, she was very talented. She was extreme.
Yeah, I had to be nasty, and I don't know. I just get frustrated when people just
Why are you frustrated?
Because these people that. They don't understand that the Republican Party really wants to straighten this mess we're in out, and they don't see it. I don't understand. I stop at Aldi's on my way home at night and grab 2 or 3 items. It's like $6. It used to be half of that, and people think that's all right. Under Donald Trump, man, I used to go in there and get a bunch of stuff. It's just, I don't have a lot of money. I'm on a Social Security thing every month. So, I mean, I'm not poor, really, but it's like it's frustrating to pay that much more for stuff you'll have to get every day, like eggs and stuff. It's just ridiculous. And I guess if you're on food stamps or something, I'm not. I got money in my wallet. I don't do the food stamp thing or anything. So, all right, enough.
All right. Well, I mean, bottom line
I'm
is
watching the Yankee game, 5-0 now. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear about the Mets, though?
I don't like the Mets.
Well,
I never liked the Mets.
Talk about the Mets. What a lost cause. They've already. Here we are, the season, we're at April 2nd, and the Mets have already lost the 2024 season. They're already out of the running. So, but the Yankees, look at the Yankees. The Yankees are going to go all the way this year.
That Juan Soto's unbelievable. Every at bat, he battles, and he watches every pitch. I never heard of the guy. I told my friend, he goes, you never heard of him? I go, no, not till spring training, and he impressed the heck out of me there. Now he's amazing. He's batting 500 and something.
All right.
Alrighty.
Have a good, enjoy your afternoon. 11:52 at WNBF. Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Matt Ryan.
Oh, hi. Have you voted today?
I didn't get up like John from Binghamton. I didn't get up early, but I'm going out soon.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're voting. I would expect a former mayor of Binghamton to always vote when the opportunity presents itself.
I vote in every election, including school boards. I think I missed one once, though. I blew the day, and that's why, it's good that, Broome County Board of Elections, they send out notices and remind people of that guy in Owego said he never got anything. I hope I'm glad that our Board of Elections sends out notices to people that their polling places and everything. But anyway, I just want Bob to know that I love him. I don't have any animosity towards him because he thinks differently than me. But I will tell him that if you study the news, egg prices aren't going up because of Joe Biden. First of all, there was a pandemic, everything went up, inflation.
Well, the
went up,
truth is, by the way, if you listen carefully to those stories, egg prices at Easter this year were actually lower than they were last year. What they were saying was, well, yeah, compared to 2 or 3 years ago, they're higher, but compared to a year ago, they were actually lower. I'm thinking, you liberal news people, you're being disingenuous because you're saying, and they do this every Easter. If egg prices are even 2 cents a dozen higher, they make it sound like Americans are going to be despondent on Easter Sunday because they can't afford eggs for their children or grandchildren. I'm saying, if you can't afford a dozen or 2 dozen eggs, you've got bigger problems than just egg prices.
Right, and don't forget, the real reason, it's always, just do a little studying. The reason why egg prices have gone back up a little bit now is because of the bird flu.
And the bird flu, did you hear? It spread to a cow, and now it's spread to a woman.
Exactly.
A woman has the bird flu.
Exactly. So it's not so simple to just blame everything on somebody you don't like. And the same thing, if Bob is honest and he does his research, gas prices have very little to do with the president. All those people said, when Trump says drill, baby, drill, we're already the biggest. For the last 5 years, we have been the biggest producers of oil in the whole world, which is, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, I didn't, if you ask most people, they'll say, oh, it's got to be, someplace in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia or something. It's not. It's us. And so we're not, we stopped a bad pipeline that was going through Indian
by the way,
property.
speaking of gas prices, Matt from Binghamton, gas prices today are 14 cents a gallon lower than they were a year ago. So thank you, President Biden, for bringing gas prices down 14 cents over the past year.
I
know that he didn't have anything to do with it. I'm just pointing out that gas prices today are 14 cents in Binghamton. This is according to the AAA gas price. It's 14 cents a gallon lower than it was this time last year. So
I bet you if Bob and I got together in the park up there where he goes all the time and had a long conversation, I could maybe convince him that we are on the same side. I've said it many, many times. I look at history as the Democrats are the ones that did.
No, I know. You put things in context and perspective. That's all the time we have. Thank you. Former Binghamton Mayor Matthew Ryan. That's all the time we do have for today. Get out there and vote if you're registered. I'm Bob Joseph.